Hey, Tomas, you ready to
What?
talk about the definitive Unforgiven, as you called it?
Yes, because apparently when you type in Unforgiven 2 on the browser, 2004 is the first one that pops up.
Oh my God, yeah, it's certainly the definitive Raw exclusive pay per view 2004. That's for sure. They've certainly. I don't know about you, man, but Raw has felt like the undisputed champion of 2004 up to this point. But now this is kind of the downward turn. Just to give you, I don't know if I want to get into the background about the main event, but there was a humongous missed opportunity that they went through on Raw, and they just couldn't wait to do it. They couldn't wait to give us
Absolutely.
this match until Unforgiven. So here we are.
Yeah. So 2003 was the year of SmackDown. And as you said, Raw is definitely kicking SmackDown's ass in the pay per view department. We've talked about it before. The injuries, the missed stars, the drafting that kind of moved around a lot of the stars. And that's what gives us the Undertaker versus the Dudley Boys main eventing one pay per view of SmackDown
Good
that we would
God.
very much like to forget. But
Good
yeah, here
God.
we are with Unforgiven 2004, a show that I ordered when I was a kid. And
Me
actually
too.
looking back at the show now, it wasn't as bad as everyone makes it out to be. I really didn't have
Oh,
an
not at
opinion
all.
about it as a kid, but
For
looking
sure.
back on it now, with a couple of like moments that we're going to definitely get into in the show, it wasn't as bad as I remember it being.
No, for sure it's not a bad show. I think the crowd in Portland, Oregon definitely got a good one. This is actually the first ever pay-per-view to emanate live from Portland, Oregon, which is a little fun fact for you there. And there's a couple of them that we would get through in the Ruthless Aggression era. But Raw exclusive, and Tomas, I know this is something that you wanted to touch on. Um, Chris Benoit had a brilliant year in 2004, winning the Royal Rumble, winning the world title, completing the 18-year odyssey at WrestleMania. He just lost the title to Randy Orton at SummerSlam. And now here he is curtain jerking. It's Chris Benoit and William Regal going up against Evolution members Ric Flair and Batista. How do you feel about this, man? There's a lot
It,
to go off of here.
so, long story short, this match came about because Benoit and Regal are Eugene's buddies. And as you remember, Triple H took out Eugene at SummerSlam. Eugene is still kayfabe selling the injury. So, Benoit and Regal, unlikely partners, would join forces to take on Batista and Flair. This is not a tag team title match. This is just a tag team match play to open up the show. And it's just very frustrating that Benoit would drop the title. And if you look at the stats, apparently Benoit was one of the least grossing world champions in history. If you look at WWE's house show schedule around the time, apparently he's one of the lowest draws. And I don't think that's fair because listening to other podcasts and interviews, WWE wasn't running a lot of house shows around this time. So they were
No.
kind of like toning down on the house shows. There was even at one point that Kurt Angle said on one of his recent podcasts around this time, they weren't doing house shows, period. So to kind of put the blame on Benoit for having low drawing houses is not a very fair, thing to put on him and just to take the world title off him. There would be the rematch between Benoit and Orton, but that took place the very next night on Raw. They wouldn't even drag out this feud any
Yeah.
much longer because we'll be getting into the aftermath of the Orton
God.
Evolution saga in the main event of this show. But
Don't even do a 2 out of
yeah,
3 falls match on this card with Benoit and Orton in the main event. You could have done Triple H versus Regal 1-on-1, which would have been a really interesting matchup. But no, you get Triple H in the main event. You get Benoit curtain jerking instead, just because he was a mutual friend with Eugene. Here he is
yeah,
partnering with his real life neighbor William Regal, as would be revealed later on, much later after Benoit's passing. But this was a fine little match to open up the show. The crowd was really into Chris Benoit. William Regal was the heat man, of course, because Benoit's the popular one. Batista's kicking the crap out of him. Benoit eventually does get the hot tag. There's some nice submission sequences between him and Flair. I think Flair locked in the figure 4 on Regal at some point in this match, right?
yeah. There's a couple things I want to bring up with that point, and that Regal and Benoit was a definitely an odd couple pairing, but as we'll see later on in the years, not only Benoit and Regal as a team was very fun, Benoit and Regal would get randomly thrown onto pay-per-views in the SmackDown era, like near the end of Benoit's career. And every time they got thrown together, it was just really good because these guys were smash mouth, they were very physical. They would chop you, they would punch you, they would knee you, and they were given a lot to Flair and Batista here. And one thing I also noticed in this match, Flair and Regal. I don't think we've really ever seen that before.
I don't
And
think
that's a
so
very
either.
interesting pairing. You would think.
Because for most of the Ruthless Aggression era, both of them have been heels at the same time. Here we have Regal playing an earnest babyface here for it's so crazy me saying that sentence because William Regal was such a good heel. And here he is playing a tough babyface. Flair does lock in a figure 4 on him. Benoit saves his partner. Regal takes some more heat. There was a point where JR was marveling at how large Batista's arms were as he had Regal in a rest hold. And I'm like, yeah, that's a Vince McMahon line right there. You got to put over Batista's arms. How big he is.
Very, very, very green Batista is. He's in there with 3 of the best. And I'm sure Batista learned a lot working under the tutelage of Flair and getting to work with Benoit and Regal and later on Triple H and, Shawn Michaels. I hate to say this, but it's going to take a while for Batista to find his niche. And not to bury the lead, as we get on later in the year, they decide to strap the rocket to Batista. He would still be in that very awkward green phase of his career, even when holding a world championship. It would take some time for
it's
Batista
almost
to
like It's so weird that you say that, Tomas, because when Batista was stuck in this mid-card, you could sense that he was still very green. But then he skyrockets into the main event scene, not to jump the gun, but once he does that, it's almost like the Midas touch affected him, and his ring work suddenly became so much better once he got the World Heavyweight Championship. And a lot of his matches that we'll talk about in 2005, really, really good. But 2004, Flair was doing a lot of the legwork. Batista was certainly the guy who they were putting over as the next big thing, if I could be Brock Lesnar joking for a minute. Regal and Batista fight outside as Benoit gets a hot tag. Benoit and Flair are doing the ring work here. Batista is eliminated with a backdrop into the crowd. There's a nice little submission switcheroo. Benoit makes Flair tap out to the crippler crossface, and that's all she wrote. It's a 15-minute match. Crowd was into it, for sure. There was just not really a whole lot of heat. It just felt like a match that was thrust onto this card just for the sake of getting Benoit on the show, and for the sake of getting all these guys on the show, for that matter. But Benoit just lost the world title, and he didn't have a solid program, so here you go. Here's an opening match. But I thought it was good for what it was.
Yeah, it was good for what it was. It was a good way to get the crowd hyped. It just proved that Benoit's still over. And we say this a lot, that Benoit, they took the title off of him a little too soon, just to, kind of go back to basics. They wanted to experiment with Randy Orton, but we'll talk about later in the show that kind of just fell flat on their face. So they went back to basics, not to sound redundant, but this was fun. I'm comfortable giving this 3 stars as an aggravating spot on the card to put Benoit. And spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen, with the exception of a couple of multi-man matches, Benoit's not going to get anywhere near the main event ever again. He would just be the quintessential babyface that would be there to team with other babyfaces to fight off Evolution, but he's not really going to get anywhere near the world title again, and that's sad.
He would basically be holding the keys to the kingdom up until his passing. He would be the guy who would put over new heels that would be thrust into the main event and what have you. I'm going to match your 3 stars. I enjoyed the match. Benoit, of course, making Flair tap to the crossface. That was something that the crowd always popped for, was seeing that crossface. But I think Regal also played his part well. Batista wasn't too overexposed, but he wasn't as bad as he was earlier on in the Ruthless Aggression era. He's certainly gotten better.
Very protected by 3 legends.
Yeah, three legends indeed. 2 legends and Chris Benoit. Anyway,
yeah, I was literally just about to correct myself there.
Oh boy, redacted. Yeah,
the next 3 matches, believe it or not, are all linked to each other, and that bugs the shit out of me right away. Before we get into the next match, we have a backstage segment where Trish Stratus and Christian, who are both challenging and defending their championships respectively, are fighting over who Tomko is going to be in the corner of, because Christian Cage just came back from an injury. Tomko has kind of just been on borrowed service to Trish Stratus, even though I'm
glad you brought that up. Christian's been out since what? Backlash? I think he had a torn triceps around this point, and this is his big return. And yeah, him and Tomko are fighting over. No, him and Trish rather are fighting over who gets to take the problem solver out to ringside with them. And
But as we showed in the Bad Blood review, Tomko's not that good of a problem solver, is he? He
no,
lost to Chris Jericho.
no,
He walks out literally 2 matches later like a geek, and Trish Stratus loses her title. So it's just like, why do you want this big oaf in your corner? You know, and then as they're fighting,
God.
Trish Stratus whispers something in Tomko's ear, probably something very suggestive. And Tomko says, sorry, buddy, Christian, you're on your own with this. But
yeah,
was there really a winner in this argument? It's not like Tomko could put his hands on anyone in the women's title match. And even if you did try to get involved, and as we'll see later on with the inaugural Money in the Bank match, he would just be there to catch somebody falling off a ladder. Tomko is pathetic.
yeah,
In his
Tomko
role,
is
he's pathetic.
Tomko sucks, man. But this is also the point where, because Christian and Trish have been an item since Mania, and this is the point where they're really starting to tease some friction between the two. Christian is like, they're right. She is a slut. As Trish walks off with Tomko, and I'm like you dated.
The pairing was there for the feud with Jericho, and it had a shelf life, but Christian getting injured really derailed those plans. So
yeah, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate,
Yeah.
but it's a situation that was, uncontrollable. It's not like Vince McMahon decided one day, you know what? I'm just going to nix this Christian push to the top of the card.
But at the same time, as we'll know, Vince McMahon, when he gets faced with injuries or suspensions, it's like he feels like nixing the entire thing. If we want to go way, way, way later in the future, R-Truth's monster heel push that got him a main event championship match with John Cena, R-Truth would get suspended for failing a wellness policy. And then just like that, gone. Heel turn, gone. Back to being a wacky babyface, back to being lower card. You had a main eventer in R-Truth, and you just decided to scrap it because, he slipped on a banana peel. But I digress.
Yeah.
That just seems to be the attitude of Vince McMahon. That segues into our first match of this little trilogy that involves Christian, Tomko, and Trish Stratus.
I'm only seeing 2 matches here, but, we'll go ahead and keep going.
Yes, one of them being very, very, we'll get to that. It's Trish Stratus defending the women's championship against Victoria. This is not 2002. Stratus is now the heel. Victoria is the very, what's the word? Perky baby face. Gone is the awesome theme song. She is basically like an NBA pop star dancer now.
Yeah.
She's coming out to the pop music. She's shaking her rump to it. She's got the pull away pants and the hat that scream 2000s. I get it. Like, you need to have that bubbly baby face, but you look at Victoria and I don't see that.
It's just wrong casting.
Yeah.
It's not the right casting. Like, if you put someone like, I don't know, like if you put the winner of the Diva Search, Christy Hemme, in that part, then, that probably would have worked a lot better. But Victoria served a much better purpose being the psychotic heel that she was in 2002 going into 2003 with that kick-ass theme song.
100%. But I will give Victoria credit. She took this gimmick and she ran with it. She looks like she's having a great time. She's got that $1 million smile like we talked about with Raquel Rodriguez and Apollo Crews, but it was just a little unfitting. But these two, you stick these two together on any pay-per-view, it's going to be a good quality match. They wouldn't get a lot of time, but I feel like Stratus and Victoria got their shit in. They got their shit in a small amount of time.
They got 8 minutes, and it very much so could have been a 15-minute match, but, there's some other stuff that apparently Vince found more important to put on pay-per-view than a longer women's match. But for the time they got, it was really, really solid. Victoria was Trish with really impressive strength maneuvers on Victoria, because Victoria's got the reach on her and the height, and Trish was able to hit spine busters on Victoria. There were a few spots that didn't look as clean as I would have liked. Victoria blocks a chick kick. She does. Okay, this is where I have an issue, right? So, why the fuck does Victoria care that Tomko is at ringside? Like, why does she care? Tomko is so ineffective. Like, Victoria
is, and it's not like Tomko's gonna put his hands on her and anything. It's like he's kind of just there.
Yeah, he's just a body to, act as Trish's heater. So she goes for a slingshot attack on Tomko, and she freaking cleans his clock, and that allows Trish Stratus to hit the Stratus faction and the 3 count. Dumb baby faces. Dumb baby faces even in 2004, going after the manager who wasn't even doing anything really on the outside. Again, problem solver, not doing anything. So Victoria had no need to go after him. More important,
I'm
go
gonna
after
give
the
this
title.
two very solid workers, not given a lot of time. They got their shit in. One of the better women's matches in the mid 2000s. It was just, it was a match that was thrown on the pay per view just for the sake of having a women's title match. And obviously, you want to talk about Trish Stratus and Victoria. You watch their hardcore match from Survivor Series 2002.
Yes.
That's one of their best matches. That is the best match they've ever had. But again,
it was shorter than this match too. I think they only got 5 minutes at Survivor Series.
And I talked about this before. There are some wrestlers, it does not matter what they're doing. It does not matter how many times they've done it. You throw them in the ring together, they're going to put on quality matches. As much as I don't like him, CM Punk and Rey Mysterio, you could just throw them together on any show. They're going to make magic. Punk and Bryan Danielson, WWE pay-per-view, throw them together, they're going to have a good match. Benoit and Regal, years later. You want to just throw them on a pay-per-view just so they can kick the shit out of each other? Do it. It's going to be quality.
Sheamus and Gunther nowadays, that's another pairing that's always guaranteed to give you a good match. Yeah, Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, exactly. Put those three together at WrestleMania, by the way, Hunter. I'm looking at you, but not to get too off topic. Speaking of the Intercontinental Championship, we have Christian going up again. Oh no.
Else that we have to talk about.
I forgot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to fucking talk about it. So that's why I was. And Jim Ross was excited to get to the ladder match too. But what happens after this women's match is that a mystery woman who is acquainted with Victoria, who is very clearly Steven Richards, jumps in the ring, attacks Tyson Tomko, then just leaves. And then the announcers are so excited to get to this ladder match, but Tyson Tomko has his own problems to solve. And he calls out Steven Richards to the ring, and they have a match. They have a pay-per-view match, a bonus match, extra value for your dollar. This is no value at all. No value at all.
So, in case anyone's wondering, what the fuck are we talking about? So, for a few weeks now, Victoria has kind of had a guardian angel. This mystery woman has been coming out to save her from attacks, and it was the worst kept secret ever. Even the commentators were saying that's Stevie Richards, guys. The crowd, it was no surprise to the crowd when the reveal happened. So Tomko was sick of this mystery woman, and he said some very derogative terms to Stevie Richards that I will not repeat on this podcast. It's pretty fucking bad. And it's
2004, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it was
very dated.
Yeah. So Richards makes his way to the ring, and he's doing a horrible job putting up the facade. Like, the wig is over his eyes, and he's like covering it. He has this dress on and these long socks, but one's pulled down and one is up. And then he's not even wearing shoes. So it's just like, who the fuck are you trying to fool? And then Tomko just beats the ever living shit out of Richards. And
okay, let me stop you right there.
Yeah,
it would have been one thing if Tomko just beat the crap out of Stevie Richards for 1 minute. These guys got almost 10 minutes to have a match. And when you put
minutes.
I'm rounding up and exaggerating just to tell you how ridiculous.
For sure. Because no. I'm going to do a little exaggerating of my own. They got 6 minutes. Those were the longest 6 minutes of my life.
This is
like an eternity.
This is a minus infinite star match if I ever saw it. Tyson Tomko was dreadful in this. Steven Richards was shackled with a horrible gimmick. Right to censor this ain't. I will tell you that much. That is peak Steven Richards, and I will take that to my grave. But this was shit. It was absolutely terrible. They try and convince me that they have Steven Richards try to make a comeback, and then Tomko beats him anyway. It's
so. If I could describe this match, unfortunately, so the crowd, this saying is thrown out around a lot, but I'm not exaggerating when I say you could hear a fucking pin drop in this arena. Mm-hmm. It was so quiet. It was a little uncomfortable because for 95% of this match, it's Tomko just with the heat, and he's beating the hell out of Richards. And I'm just sitting here thinking, why is this going on as long as it is? This could have been a 60-second squash. But no, it just kept going and going and going. And Tomko rips off the wig, and then he rips off the dress. And Richards isn't even wearing his trunks underneath. He's wearing like these granny panties. And I'm just like,
what the fuck am I watching? What the fuck am I watching?
Could you embarrass this man even more than you already have? And
God.
Richards isn't getting a lick of offense in, and then he does, but he doesn't really. And then the match is over. Yeah, -5 stars. I thought you were exaggerating when you said this match was as bad as it was, but
it's one of the worst things that could have ever been put on a wrestling pay-per-view. You wasted Steven Richards' time. You clearly wasted the announcer's time. You wasted our time. That's 7 minutes of my life that I wish I could get back. And I actually put down a quote from Jerry the King Lawler, who has said a lot of questionable things throughout the Ruthless Aggression era. But I could not agree with him more when he said, I don't really know what to say about that.
And if this is your way of getting Tomko over as a monster heel,
and that's another thing. That's another thing. It felt like Vince's test on, okay, let's see if this Tomko guy can get over. I want him to get over. Failed. Absolutely failed on every level. Again, I must reiterate, Tomas has said this a couple of times. Impact did not want to sign him in the mid-2000s, but the only reason why they did so is because Christian Cage insisted. And I'm like, he only has one fan. Only has one fan in the world. But
I don't understand why Christian would insist on signing this guy. Maybe he's just a really nice guy in real life. Maybe he was having some tough times and Christian felt bad for him, but they've never reiterated on that. Christian has never gone on interviews and said, oh yeah, I love Tomko. Jeff Jarrett has refused to talk about it. Just that's the only thing he said on the issue. And it's
poor
just,
Jeff Jarrett, man.
I can't think of one single good thing Tomko has done. And then you move on to TNA, and then poor AJ Styles has to carry this bloke on his back, as he would say, into an awkward tag team title run. And then I don't understand. What is this man up to nowadays?
I don't understand the appeal. I don't understand the appeal at all. Doesn't matter. But yeah, moving on to this last entry into this trifecta of this storyline, Tomas. What do we have?
We have Christian versus Chris Jericho in a ladder match to crown a new Intercontinental Champion. This was a blessing in disguise for Edge. He got injured once again. And according to Eric Bischoff, the prognosis for his injury would be 4 to 6 weeks. That means the mandatory 30-day requirement for Edge to defend Intercontinental title would expire. Gee, I sure wish they would do that nowadays. So unfortunately, Edge had to be stripped of the Intercontinental title. I think they were trying to do Edge, Jericho, and Christian in a triple threat ladder match, maybe. Or maybe Edge and Christian in a ladder match. That would have been really good. But Edge got injured, so they kind of just did a slight shifting around. Or maybe they were just planning on doing Edge and Jericho. They did a slight shifting around and ended up being Christian and Jericho. These two needed their blow off anyway. I know they technically had their blow off in the steel cage, but that was the thing because Bischoff originally wanted to make this a steel cage match, but Christian had to remind everyone, remember the last time I was in a cage with Jericho, he injured me, so I'm not doing a cage match. That makes a lot of sense, Christian. Don't do a cage match. Do a match even more dangerous than a cage match. Bischoff said it's going to be a ladder match.
Well, and plus, like, I don't even know if the original plan was the Kayfabe brothers to go at it in a ladder match, because they've already done that. No Mercy 2001, those two fought for this very same title in a ladder match, and it's a freaking great match that I highly recommend everybody go out and watch. As is the case with this one. This is a great ladder match. Spoiler alert, guys. This is my pick for match of the night. I think these two went out there and they freaking killed it. This crowd was into every single move that these two were throwing at each other. And it's really, like, with the vacant title stipulation, this is really a coin flip. Could have gone either way. And this crowd, every single time someone was climbing that ladder, Christian gets inches away. Christian's hanging onto the ring like he always does, which is really stupid. Every time in a ladder match, every time you watch Christian in a ladder match, it's always like he's hanging from the ring.
Thank you for bringing that up, because every time I see that, I say the same thing. You're right there. There's nobody there to stop you. Unhook the title and take a small, like, little 2-foot drop to the back. You win. It's worth it. It's worth it.
You win. Yeah, and then you just drop to the floor. Maybe you sprain your ankle, but you know what? That heals up in a few days. Christian hits a kill switch on the floor. This match is absolutely stiff as hell. There's again, they don't really have to put in a bunch of gizmos and set up a bunch of jungle gyms with the ladder or anything like that. They can tell a story centered around one ladder. They can do spots centered around one ladder. Doesn't have to be so overly complicated all the time to get all the high spots. And a lot of times they say, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. The stickest bump in this match was actually one of the simplest things ever. They're both on top of the ladder, and then Jericho goes for a bulldog off the ladder, and they both just come careening down from that ladder. Like I said, I used to have a best of 2004 WWE magazine, and they have an awesome shot of Jericho and Christian just plummeting to the ground after that spot.
Oh, absolutely nasty. Jericho misses a lion salt on a ladder sandwich, and Christian moves out of the way. So Jericho lion salts a ladder. Stupid. Absolutely stupid. I hope these guys got nice ice baths after this. But
yeah, like it would have hurt less if Christian didn't move.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there was a Walls of Jericho submission on the ladder, which everybody loves seeing that spot that was made famous in the Benoit ladder match in 2001. Jericho grabbing the title. Oh man, there were some stiff spots. Like he had Christian trapped under the ladder, pushes it up. Jericho like stumbles off of it and lands flat on his rear end on the ladder. It was could not have been comfortable at all. Very stiff, very, very stiff landing there. But Jericho sets up the ladder over Christian, and he grabs the IC title. It's a 23-minute ladder match that I'm going to give 4 stars. Really great stuff here. These guys went out there and killed it. The crowd, like I said, was into it. Jericho was put over like he should have been. It might have been the plan for Jericho to beat Edge, all things considered, but I don't know. It was really fun.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Maybe not, because as we'll get into very, very soon, whoever won this ladder match was going to be a transitional champion. We'll get into that at the next Raw pay-per-view. They had some plans. They had some plans for one person on that pay-per-view, which kind of fell into their lap because Taboo Tuesday is going to be interesting to talk about because that had a very interesting gimmick.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, I really, really, really liked this match. If you seek out this pay-per-view to watch one match, I think it would be this ladder match between Chris Jericho and Christian. But okay. Let me talk about this. First of all, Jericho was interviewed shortly after the match by the coach, and coach is asking him how he feels, which is a dumb question because Jericho was like, I just got a ladder stuck up my ass, coach. How do you think I feel? And then Edge walks up to Chris Jericho, basically says, hey, keep that title warm because I'm coming after it. Interesting considering where Edge would be going at Taboo Tuesday, or as he would say, Taboo Tuesday. But yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna say Taboo Tuesday like that every time. So be prepared, viewers.
It is what it is.
Okay, so let's reiterate. Let's just set the scene right here. If you are uncomfortable with a storyline that deals with sexual assault, forced marriage, forced pregnancies, I strongly encourage you guys to skip to the next timestamp because we're going to get into some shit right here. Kane is having an open challenge here. Kane is having an open challenge here on this show. Lita is in his corner, a pregnant Lita, and basically Kane has an open contract for Unforgiven, and Lita, to stick it to her ex-husband, has had the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, sign the open contract. And we have not seen Shawn Michaels since Kane Pillmanized him the night after he went through hell with Triple H at Bad Blood, which is widely considered by Tomas to be the greatest Hell in a Cell match of all time, but to each our own. Kane Pillmanized Shawn...
Edge and Orton.
Yeah. But Kane and Shawn Michaels... So, okay, how do I put this? Shawn Michaels was cutting an in-ring promo, and then for some reason, Kane comes out, wraps a steel chair around his throat, and Pillmanizes Shawn Michaels. And the gimmick is that he crushed his throat and his voice box, the larynx, essentially. And Shawn has to be taken to a local medical facility. But the reason this angle was done is actually because Shawn Michaels and his wife were welcoming their second child into the world. So Shawn was taking his extended time off around this time throughout the summer.
Yeah, it was a perfect time to write Michaels off anyway. He just had the huge blow off with Triple H. He wasn't going to be challenging for the world title. There was other plans in motion. So this was the perfect time for Shawn Michaels to take a vacation.
Absolutely.
And like you said, Lita said because they're married, they gave 50% of everything. God, this storyline makes me gag. Lita took it upon herself to sign Shawn Michaels. Kane then says, like, well, whatever happens to Shawn Michaels, the blood is on your hands right before the match. And I kind of hate how they do this. I think they do this because, oh, you got to order the pay-per-view because you never know what's going to happen. Lita is getting interviewed, and then, you know, she swears like Kane's not in the same fucking dressing room she is, because she's saying all this shit about Kane, saying, I hope Shawn Michaels beats the holy hell out of Kane. And then Kane shows up behind her. I'm like, what, you were talking so loud, and Kane's literally in the same dressing room.
What do you expect, Kane? What do you expect? What do you expect?
So then Kane says, remember, the blood is on your hands. And I just talked to Eric Bischoff, and this is now a no disqualification match. I hate when they add a stipulation last second, like literally seconds before the pay-per-view. Like,
yeah, but again, so let's just take the storyline out of the equation. We've talked a lot about Kane matches on this retro, and Kane has never been one to go in there and be the dependent one to put on great matches. He's always been the guy. He goes out there, he has the awesome theme song, he has the awesome fire to his entrance and everything like that. That's his whole gimmick. He was burned by The Undertaker when he was a little boy. So he walks out there, he's a spectacle. But if you put the right opponent out there, like a Kurt Angle, like a Chris Benoit, you can have a good Kane match. And then you throw out a great opponent like Shawn Michaels, and you have a really good match. That's what I thought this match was. Given what it was, I really liked it. Really, really dug it.
It was not an over-the-top no disqualification match. This is miles better than what Kane and Matt Hardy did at Vengeance. But not Vengeance. Yeah, this fucking storyline has my
God. You know, if this was more centered around the fact that Kane pillmanized Shawn Michaels and he's coming back to be a public avenger, then it would have been fine. It would have been a really, really good match that way. But Kane is pulling Lita in the way and using her as a human shield, even though she's pregnant with his demon spawn. What a fucking idiot. And, you know, it's, my God.
You know, I will give Kane credit for his smart ring psychology. He's actually centering a lot of this match around Shawn Michaels' throat, because he did injure the throat. He injured his voice box, and he's working more around Shawn Michaels' face area. Again, Shawn Michaels is the greatest wrestler who ever lived. These two clicked pretty well. They had good chemistry. Michaels knew how to tell the story. Kane had excellent ring psychology in this match.
Shawn can wrestle a broomstick, or, yeah, you know, he could wrestle anybody and get a good match out of them, I feel. Kane suplexes Shawn Michaels through an announce table after an awkward slam that was probably supposed to break the table initially. There's some nice brawling on the outside. Michaels with a DDT out of the corner, flying forearms. This crowd is so into the Heartbreak Kid as well, might I add. They freaking love a piece of Shawn Michaels. Here's a fun fact for you. So Shawn is blading around this point. Kane would hit a big boot on Shawn Michaels as Shawn is going for the sweet chin music and everything like that, tuning up the band. He goes for the sweet chin music. Kane hits this massive big boot. And has anybody ever seen Shawn Michaels in like modern interviews from 2005 onward where he has a lazy eye? This big boot is what caused the lazy eye, ladies and gentlemen. So that's a little piece of trivia for you if you've never heard that.
How ironic is it that, considering the Shawn Michaels Bret Hart feud back in the day and how their dynamic was there, you turn the tables here because you have Shawn Michaels that got a big boot to the eye that affected his vision forever and gave him this look. I don't see him burying Kane in every single interview he's on. Yet Goldberg had one accidental kick that unfortunately ended Bret Hart's career. That was 23 years ago, and Bret Hart still hasn't let it go.
No way. No way.
Weird how life works.
Karma will make you humble, and Shawn is a super humble man at this point. So if this was 1997 Shawn Michaels and he got this errant kick to the head from like Dr. Isaac Yankem at the time, he would not have let Glenn Jacobs hear the end of it. But Kane is back in control. He goozles Shawn, and there's a low blow by the babyface. It's no disqualification, so he can do that. So here's the finish. Kane is going for a steel chair. Lita pulls the chair away from her abusive husband. Good on you, Lita. Thank you. And Kane is yelling at her. Shawn hits Kane with a sweet chin music and rolls him up for the win. I like the match. I thought it was good.
Cool finish.
Yeah.
I thought it was a cool finish.
I liked it.
Because not only was Shawn Michaels avenging himself from the injury, he was the knight in shining armor. He was coming to defend Lita. But match was excellent. I'll give it 3 3/4 stars. Awesome to see Shawn Michaels back. Michaels, being the gentleman that he is, shakes Lita's hand and kisses her hand, basically like, good doing business with you. Michaels is on his way off, and this is where this angle just continues to rub me the wrong way. Shawn Michaels is back. Cool. He got his revenge for what Kane did to him. Cool. Kane, the abusive asshole, they pulled one over on him. Awesome. Still married to Lita.
Yeah, they still have to show him carrying Lita off screen, and like, couldn't you just have cut away before you got to that angle where Kane was like tugging at Lita's arm, like bringing her backstage? Like,
how long
things like
did
that
Kane sell the super kick? 30, 60 seconds tops?
Not long. Not long.
The minute, no, not even before Michaels could lead back into Gorilla. Kane just grabbed Lita's arm and is pulling her up the ramp. And honestly, I saw that image and I just thought, this match accomplished nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Well,
it's not like Shawn Michaels was fighting for Lita's freedom.
Right.
It's not like Lita decided to give Kane the middle finger and said, fuck you, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm walking out on you. No. It was a match. Michaels got his revenge.
It was pretty much all to welcome back Shawn Michaels and have him get revenge on the guy who kayfabe wrote him off.
I really hate to use this analogy. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are still listening and you don't want to hear something like this, please skip ahead. That's like if you were out hanging out with your friends and you saw a guy hitting a woman and then you went up, punched that dude in the eye, and then walked away and didn't call the police. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
This angle.
And believe it or not, it's going to get even worse. It's going to get even worse at Taboo Tuesday.
Even worse.
Oh, man. Like, thank God we're talking about a SmackDown show next up on this pay-per-view. Because I need a breather from this angle. Like, the last 3 2004 shows... Oh, God, man. But
and every time we get back to Raw, I just have to mentally prepare myself to talk about this angle because it's fucking awful.
I would give the match 3.5 stars. Like, as it stands, I think it's a really solid Kane match for what we got. Shawn Michaels, like you said, is one of the greatest performers ever set foot in the wrestling ring. I liked it. I had fun with the match on a rewatch. And it's interesting that this is the match that gave Shawn his lazy eye. You would think the match would be more infamous because of that, but nobody ever really talks about the match anymore because of that. But
I feel like nobody knows about that fact so much that they just think they have a Mandela effect and they just think Shawn Michaels has had that his entire career when he hasn't.
Has had it his entire life, practically. He was born with it, but absolutely not. If you look back at old Shawn Michaels promos where he lost his smile, for example, his eyes are perfectly aligned. So anyway, really good match. I would recommend seeking this one out as well if you can look past the terrible storyline on the undersurface. But up next, Tomas, you about to have a stroke because of this random tag team?
Absolutely, I am. But as you know, this is a random tag team that I do not mind. It's your obligatory World Tag Team title match. I swear. I feel like some of these Raw pay-per-views are so formulaic that you look at some of these matches and you just think they threw that on there because they had to. It's La Resistance defending against Rhyno and Tajiri. I like this team of Rhyno and Tajiri. I'm sorry. I think it's cool. You have 2 badass former ECW champions. And, you know, obviously I wish their position on the card was a lot higher, but Vince McMahon hates anyone that didn't originally start off with WWE.
Yeah.
So here we are. They get almost 10 minutes, believe it or not.
Rhyno wearing some Impact Wrestling attire, by the way. The crowd. So, man, this crowd, poor guys in the ring, they were all doing their best, but this crowd was just not into this at all, especially after Shawn Michaels and Kane just put on a really good match. The heels actually wound up having Rhyno be the heat guy, and Tajiri was the one who was like, oh, yeah, let me go in there and do some buzzsaw kicks, and then I'll get the hot tag, and then we'll do heat on Tajiri.
This was your cooldown match. You know, the main event is next. They didn't want to tire out the crowd. This is your bathroom break match.
It's a nice palate cleanser.
Yeah, this is your get your t-shirt match.
Yeah, and even back in 2004, this is another thing that bugged me about the match. La Resistance hits a double spine buster, and JR calls it a freaking flapjack. All these commentators always call moves the wrong way. Just say that it's a double spine buster. Call Edge's submission the educator. It's not that difficult. Just call things by the right move. Call FTR's finisher the Shatter Machine. Call Christian's finisher the Kill Switch. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard.
You have to give JR some credit because, like he said infamously, there is nothing like seeing a WWE Dynamite live.
I hate you. I hate you so much.
Company he worked for a minute.
Oh, man. So anyway, the heels are working over to Tajiri, who sends a flag into the nether regions of Sylvain Grenier. Rhyno hits a gore, and it looks like the ECW originals are going to win the belt, but Robert Conway puts Sylvain's foot on the bottom rope, of course. The crowd finally wakes up around this point. But Grenier jabs Rhyno in the chest with the Montreal or Quebecian flag, rather. And the foreign heels retain the championships. This is another issue I had with it. These guys got 10 minutes, and right as the crowd was getting into it, the match ends. You know, if only you didn't have a Tyson Tomko 7-minute match on here, these guys could have put on a really good tag team match. But as it sits, it was fine for what it was.
In the Ruthless Aggression era, I've noticed there's two things they do not care about on Monday Night Raw, and that's women in tag teams.
It's a damn shame.
It's obligatory. That's why, again, the women's title matches and the tag team title matches all feel, obligatory. Like they have to have them on the show.
It's like Vince was just using recycled gimmicks that he already used back in the 80s, because Sylvain is going out there singing the Canadian national anthem. Much like Nikolai Volkov would go out and sing the Russian national anthem to a lot of heat and probably to the hatred of a lot of American Idol judges that would go through the cycle around this time. But
remember, never forget, foreign bad. If you're from England, if you're from Russia, if you are from Canada, for some fucking reason, I'll never understand that.
If you're from Mexico.
Bad. Bad man.
Well, actually, no, not so much. Not so much Mexico, because Eddie and Ray were baby faces when they feuded with JBL. But anyway,
France, Germany, Canada, Russia,
India.
I hate to jump the gun on this one, but Iraq.
Yeah, but okay. All right. You ready to get depressed? Really depressed? Mm-hmm. Your main event of the evening is young 24-year-old Randy Orton defending the big gold belt against his former mentor, Triple H. Why in the fuck is this match happening a month after Orton won the belt? Like, they could have... This is... Oh, man. So, I don't want to jump the gun real quick saying this, but I just cannot leave this thought in my head for any longer. Randy Orton, I feel like, was the biggest victim of Triple H's reign of terror. Say what you want about him burying Rob Van Dam. Say what you want about him burying Booker T after he said he spent however long he spent in the clink, Randy Orton, 24 years old, this guy very easily, after a long, drawn-out feud, probably culminating when Triple H finally does turn on him. Maybe they do that at the Royal Rumble. They could have really drawn that out through the fall season, through the rest of 2004, and you could have built up Randy Orton to be the next top babyface in the company. But no, Vince could not wait to do this. He really could not
So
wait.
we're gonna give the audience the kayfabe reason, and then we're gonna give them the real reason. So kayfabe reason: the night after SummerSlam, like I mentioned before, Orton and Benoit had the rematch for the World Heavyweight Championship. Orton retained. Evolution came in to celebrate with Randy Orton. Batista had him up on his shoulders, and for some reason, even as a kid, I kind of saw this coming. I was watching this segment. I saw them celebrate, and I just thought, like, what if Batista just dropped him right now? And the infamous shot
Triple
of
H.
Triple H. Now.
Yep.
They had it on Orton. Big electric chair. They beat the piss out of Orton.
Beat him to a bloody pulp.
Triple H was jealous. Let me ask you something, though. If Triple H was going to be so jealous, I know he was kind of wrapped up in his Eugene stuff. Why did it take him this long to realize, hey, a guy beneath me is going to take my World Heavyweight Championship? Why would he allow this to happen if he has so much power in the company?
Remember.
So that's one thing.
You got to remember, this is Vince McMahon writing the show at the time, so there's going to be a lot of logical gaps.
The real reason why this got so hot-shotted, into this feud is that Randy Orton had some attitude problems. It is well documented by Randy Orton himself that he even admits that he was way too young, he was way too immature to be given such a high spot that he was. He has gone on account. This is even before all the fucked up shit he's done. He has done some really weird shit, and that's a very poor choice of words. Like, he's ribbed people. He has taken dumps in people's travel bags for some reason. To fast forward a little, he said that he slept through his rehearsal with his WrestleMania match with The Undertaker, and he got so much fucking heat for that. So he had attitude problems. He was very difficult to work with. So this was his punishment. They pushed him to the top, and they were going to knock him off his pedestal. They were going to change the fact of how frustrating this is.
Yeah, karma certainly makes you humble for sure at a young age, but we should also know that this is the pay-per-view debut of Randy Orton's iconic Burn in My Light theme song, which I still love to this very day. It's like, nothing will top Voices for me, but damn, Burn in My Light is close. I really love that theme song. I really do.
Good. It's very good. I can't stand when people say it's better than Voices, though.
No, I disagree. I disagree with that. I think Voices is the better one, and Randy Orton himself thinks that Voices is the better one. He said he didn't like Burn in My Light, but I'll disagree with him there. I like that song. I like that song, okay?
I've noticed with Triple H, there has been a trend of bringing back old theme songs to get a nostalgia pop out of us. As much as I love, not to get on too much of an off-topic tangent, as much as I love Broken Dreams, you get Gallantry is it slaps. Like,
it does.
The aggressive bagpipes and the banging of the drums from Drew McIntyre just fits. I'm glad they brought it back for a nostalgia at Clash of the Castle. Ironically enough, Sami Zayn doesn't even like Worlds Apart. Yet Triple H brought back that theme song because he knew how much it would get over, and that fits him better as a babyface. I'm glad they brought it back.
Mm-hmm.
Please, I'm just so worried. Not worried, but anxious that when Randy Orton does come back and he's put into a big profile match, they'll bring back Burn in My Light just for one night.
Well, they almost did at WrestleMania 30 when Rev Theory played Voices live, and they did the little build up before the theme drops, and then I am, and then oh man, you teased me, Burn in My Light.
Look up the song on Spotify. That is actually the intro to the song. They kept that little bit from Burn in My Light. Anywho, we're not here to talk about theme songs. We're here to talk about this World Championship match. And you know what? This is going to surprise a lot of you. I didn't think the match was that bad.
I thought it was good. I didn't think it was the best match on the show by any stretch. It was certainly a very slow, cerebral type of match that you would expect from Triple H around 2004. One of the big stories of the match early on was the disrespect that the youngster was showing to his mentor. On Raw, Triple H was demanding that Randy Orton hand over the big gold belt and do the right thing. but Randy Orton spits in Triple H's face as he's about to do it. And they play off of that. There's a few callbacks. Randy Orton slaps Triple H in the face a couple of times. Very hard, might I add. Triple H must have been very upset by that.
But Randy Orton was showing a little disdain that he had to do the job tonight, and he was getting out some of his frustrations.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there was a point about this match I was going to make. Oh, that's more towards the end of the match. I think these guys clicked very well in this match, all things considered.
I think they would have better matches than this down the line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But considering that this match has such a bad reputation for it, I was kind of expecting a shit show. But, you know, despite what you want to say about Randy Orton's attitude, he was still working very well in this match. Also, another thing that made me so mad about this match is during the entrances, the World Heavyweight title looked so damn good on Orton at that point in his career. Because, as you know, iconically, when he would win the world title future, he would drape it over the shoulder. There is just something. I'm an old school guy, so I love just wearing it around the waist. Sure, over the shoulder is fine. Don't fucking put it around your neck. I hate that shit. Don't wear it like battle armor. I hate that shit. If you want to hold it, yeah, that's a little lazy, but nothing beats wearing it around the waist.
Yeah.
It's just so damn good.
That's what Hunter always did, and what he'll continue to do, spoiler alert. But Randy Orton kicks Triple H into the ring post, and it looked kind of contrived in a sense, like Triple H missed it a little bit, but that was enough to make him bleed. And I know Triple H bled a lot in these pay-per-view matches, especially if it was for the world title, but this one I don't think needed to happen. This is not a bad blood style of match where he really needed to bleed, and I don't think the feud was personal enough at this point where blood was necessary.
No.
Like they weren't wrestling a cage match or anything like that, so they didn't need blood there. But
no, the feud was very undercooked.
Mm-hmm.
It was like not.
You don't say. Yet. You don't say. This is a match that should have happened for the first time at the Royal Rumble, maybe even New Year's Revolution, and I will hold true to that until the cows come home. But the fact that Vince shoehorned this after he was so petty that Brock Lesnar left him and he crowned a new youngest world champion in company history, only to take it away from him like not even a month later. Like, just bugs the crap out of me. And
karma's a bitch.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. There is a ref bump after Randy Orton goes for an RKO out of nowhere. He hits an RKO after a pedigree attempt, which is a sweet-looking reversal. And because Randy Orton's a dumb babyface, he goes for the cover when the ref is down. And here comes Flair and Batista, run interference. This
is where the match gets a little sour for me. So this ending is so fucking overbooked. Every single Triple H world title match is so fucking overbooked.
Yeah.
It's too much. Like, and then people wonder why the main event for Elimination Chamber was so overbooked, because that's how Triple H had his own world title matches.
Well, at least the interference, like, all the interference made sense, and all the ref bumps made sense in those spots. Randy Orton hits the RKO. Flair and Batista come down to try and beat up on Randy Orton.
And I'm sorry, how weak does it make Evolution that Randy Orton just beats all these guys off by himself? Wow, that was a horrible choice of words. I am sorry.
My goodness. My goodness.
Terrible choice of words.
Randy Orton is
all of them off by himself there.
Randy Orton is hit with a low blow before Triple H goes for the pin. Speaking of interference that makes no sense, the coach runs down with a ref shirt on. What does he have against Randy Orton?
I genuinely forgot that happened.
Like, what? I know Eric Bischoff likes Evolution and all that, but it made no sense for the coach to run down here and be the special referee for a bit. I guess to get Randy Orton more cheers, hits an RKO on coach. That was a big pop there. Yeah, Flair gets hit with an RKO. Batista gets hit with an RKO. And then fucking Triple H hits Orton in the head with a steel chair as hard as he can. Randy Orton sells it wonderfully. Pedigree on the chair. Earl Hebner wakes up. And Triple H is crowned the new world champion.
Okay.
I love you, Hunter. But, like, Again, none of this would have happened if you assholes did not cheer Hulk Hogan at Backlash 2002. We brought this on ourselves, the Reign of Terror. We really did.
I hope you guys enjoyed your 6-month break because it's back.
Mm-hmm.
And we may be in the home stretch from it. We still got a ways to go.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a reverse compliment sandwich for this. If you've never heard of this before, so you start off with a compliment, then you go on something you need to work on, and then you end with a compliment. I got 2 negatives and a positive for this. Let's start off with one of the negatives. Number 1, this match was overbooked to hell.
Like, you don't say.
I already said my piece about that with Triple H, but here's the thing. Interference, all right. Ref bump, okay. I genuinely forgot the Jonathan Coachman thing happened, and you're right. It doesn't make any sense. And then
I guess they had to overbook it because this feud was so much under the pressure cooker, and Vince did not let it build to a point where it got to a boil. Hell, I would have even accepted them doing this at like Survivor Series or Taboo Tuesday, even.
It's just
couldn't wait to do it.
You got that, and then the interference, all right. The ref bump, all right, and then you have the coach spot, which what the fuck, and then the chair shot and the pedigree on the chair. I'm like, oh my god, could you cheat even more? I get Triple H is the heel, but overkill is overkill, and that's what this was. It was overkill. Believe it or not, as a kid, I remembered it as Evolution ran the ring. He took a Batista bomb, a steel chair shot, and a pedigree. And I'm just remember just being like, Jesus Christ, could you kill this guy even more? It's like, I get it. Triple H is the cheater. He's the bad guy. But, like I said, overkill is overkill.
Oh,
the last positive, or no, the last negative, again, they took the title off of Randy Orton so fast before it was gone, before you even could realize that he had it. Again, and I understand why they did it, but again, it was just this whole convoluted hot potatoing of the title just to put it right back on Triple H because that's where Vince McMahon felt most comfortable with it on for the time being. It's like, oh my God, my Randy Orton experiment failed. Put it back on Triple H until I can figure out a new guy. And that's exactly what he did.
Mm-hmm. But Randy Orton's attitude behind the scenes really cost them a really captivating WrestleMania narrative there.
I'm sorry, I forgot my positive. I messed that whole thing up.
It's okay.
I didn't hate this match. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. Everything up until the finish. Yeah, everything up until the finish I thought was very solid. I thought these two, in the stage of Orton's career, I thought they worked together very well. I thought they clicked very well. If they would have had a solid, clean finish, this match probably would have been even better. But it was bogged down by terrible overbooking at the end.
I can't go higher than a 3 on this, unfortunately, just because of how much this was overbooked. Not saying the wrestling was bad at all, but I definitely agree. Jonathan Coachman coming out and being the ref for a bit made no sense whatsoever. And you made a really good point that convinced me to knock it down a few pegs about Triple H overly cheating. If he's supposed to be this all-powerful, mighty, cerebral assassin that is supposed to come off like this final boss on Monday Night Raw, he shouldn't need to cheat that much. If you look at a top heel right now, like the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns, how many times have you seen Roman Reigns cheat to win? How many times have you seen him use a weapon to beat down his opponents?
The only similarities, Triple H used Evolution. I mean, Roman Reigns used the Bloodline the same way Triple H used Evolution. The interference, all right. But then the overkill with the steel chair. And the finisher on the chair, it's like, okay.
But after the interference, if you look back at Clash at the Castle, for example, all it took was Solo Sikoa coming down and interfering. Drew fights him off for a bit. Roman doesn't use a weapon. He hits him with a spear, maybe a second spear, and then he beats him. Triple H does not need to use weapons in this context, but that's what they did in 2004, man. And Randy Orton is going to come off looking like such a freaking geek fighting Evolution for these next number of months before he gets into his actual WrestleMania program, which I cannot wait to discuss. But
yeah, this is basically Randy Orton's punishment for being a little shit.
Yeah, unprofessional conduct much, and that'll be a hefty topic as we go through these retros. But Unforgiven 04, I mean, with uh,
I'm giving it a
it's
7. Had some solid matches.
had some really good. It had 2 really good matches on here, though. I can't 6.75. I would say.
Okay, that's
Just
fair.
because you had enough crap on this show that was not memorable. The main event kind of left a sour taste in your mouth, but you had enough solid wrestling on here. The opener was good, albeit with no heat. I don't know. It's not the most memorable B show you'll ever see. It's certainly not the best Raw show of 2004 by any stretch. I think that distinction goes to Backlash, but it's still good enough as it stands. But guys, we're on the road to WrestleMania 39. We got No Way Out 2001 in the pipeline. Tomas and I have watched the show. We can't wait to talk about it with you guys. We will be going to Revolution this Sunday, March 5th. Can't wait. Can't wait to be at the Chase Center. Should be a lot of fun. If you're at the Chase Center and you spot us over there, feel free to say howdy. Yeah, should be a good time. Should be a good time. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell as well. Should be a lot to come. What's up?
Oh, absolutely. No, just reiterating, it's going to be a very fun month. Like, we're actually going to start planning when we're done with this review. And yeah, we're going to be at Revolution. I'm going to be at Dynamite at Sacramento the following Wednesday. And then we got Supercard of Honor and WrestleMania and WrestleCon. Ton of stuff on the horizon.
Yeah, I still got to print out my 8x10s for WrestleCon. So thank you for reminding me of that. But guys, thank you so much, as always, for tuning in, and stay tuned for the next one.